I basically just remember being in my 7th grade science class and hearing that 2 towers were hit, and I really wasn't sure what happened. And then I remember turning the TV on, and like we all just like kind of stopped our whole school day and just watched TV. And it was crazy. Like everyone was kind of like numb and shocked by it. So I just remember being shocked and not like thinking it was possible something like that could happen in America.
I was in 6th grade, and I knew something happened when I was in the classroom, but I know that my teacher wasn't allowed to say what was going on, and I found out on the bus on the way home. Some kids were talking about it, some older kids that knew.
I was in Africa at the time, in South Africa, and I just remember a bunch of my friends that were from the U.S. Embassy panicking and like getting evacuated and coming back home and all that stuff.
So we had a substitute teacher, and we were all playing, and she kind of gave us extra playtime, so we knew something was off. And finally she brought us aside and told us that was going on. So I remember
when we got to school, I remember teachers being on the verge of tears or crying altogether. I do remember recess was canceled because of a rain delay.
What I remember is I was at school, and I remember like slight panic, and everyone was kind of like on edge, and they put school on like lockdown, so we weren't allowed to like even go outside. Like we weren't allowed to go outside for recess and stuff like that, and just everyone was very nervous, and it just kind of got everyone scared. I think it's really what I remember the most.
I remember that day that my dad flew. I live in Jersey, so he left from the New York airport and flew to Boston. And it was scary because we couldn't get in contact with him for a long time, and we didn't know where he was. But finally, when he came home, we had to go pick up the car from the airport. And to get to the car, my mom put us all in the van, and we drove to the airport. And to get the car, we had to go in to the parking garage, but the army was all there with like guns and stuff, like blocking the way, and they had to check the van before we could go get the car, and it was just a scary experience.
For no reason, turning on the TV and seeing the devastation and the crazy things happening to our nation.
I remember in 6th grade, so I was in class when it happened, and the administration just came on the announcements and let us know that an attack had happened, but that they weren't going to give us many more details, that we'd have to go home to find more about it.
Just thinking that this couldn't be real, it kind of looked like a movie.
The channel, like all channels had the images of the towers and the plane.
I was in a Christian middle school, and when it actually happened, they didn't tell us right away, or they didn't even tell us during the day. So they gathered all of us into one room, and we just prayed, and we didn't really know what we were praying for or praying about, and the school didn't really want us to know, I guess, because they didn't want to scare us or frighten us.
I found out just by walking in the hallways with classmates, and I was going to English class, I remember, and all of our teachers kind of rushed us into our classrooms and then had us sit down, and I remember our teachers turning on the news, and I remember just being really confused about what was going on. So I remember walking home after school, and then my mom kind of standing on the porch with tears in her eyes and coming inside and watching the news for a couple hours that evening with my parents and my family. So
I remember school kind of stopping, and our school was just very structured, and I thought that, and I kind of realized how big the event was by how it affected just the school day and how everything stopped.
My brother and my dad are pilots, and so that was like one of my first reactions when I heard about the planes was, are they okay? I guess it turned out my dad had been flying in that direction, and my brother had been going down south, but they both got detoured and went to different airports and stayed there, so they were safe spots. And then my family owns an airport, and I remember going to the airport immediately after it, and just people trying to make light of the situation. I was, for some reason, rode my bike over and I had my helmet on, and one of the guys said, "Oh, that guy's got the right idea. He's protecting himself." And I was like, it was just kind of strange that he was trying to make light of it, but I guess you kind of deal with it the way you can.
And some of my people in my class were getting out early, and I was confused as to why they were. And then I remember going home, and I got off the bus, and my mom was waiting for me at the bus stop, and she never did that, ever. So she walked us home, and then she sat us down in the family room, and talk to me and my siblings about what happened. And
I remember being at home. We lived in Kenya at the time, and my dad came home and told us to turn the TV on, and we watched the TV for a couple hours and just watched what was going on. It was kind of sad, but I was too young to really realize what was going on, and we were too far away to even have it really impact us.
Actually, it turns out my best friend's mother was supposed to be in the Twin Towers that morning, but she had delayed her meeting for the next day because she wanted to have lunch with the pastor of our church. And so that was just a big God thing, is that the reason she wasn't in the towers that day was because she wanted to talk to her pastor about like God and her relationship with them. So that was just kind of a hit home at that point, that she was saved because God loved her.
Through it all, our country seemed to unite around each other and support the people who had lost loved ones, and all the firefighters and all the people who served that day. And one thing I always remember is a story of how a man who I think our family knew, he was here. He lives in San Diego, and he was here on business in Pennsylvania, I think. And on the day that September 11th happened, and since all the airports were shut down, there's no way to get back home. So he actually rented a car and drove all the way back to California just so he can get to his family, because he was worried about them and he just wanted to be with them, as most people did, because during that time there was a lot of uncertainty and everyone just united around each other. And that's one story I'll never forget.
With the war that then ensued and things that followed, I began to draw an interest in politics, and I'm a politics major now at Messiah. So it's really been interesting to see how the events and the policies following September 11th have affected me and my career path.
Just knowing what was going on in the world, and that I was helpless, I couldn't help others out. All I could do was just watch. So I guess I was impacted in a way that I couldn't do anything, and that these things were going on in the world. And now today, I realize how much of an impact it's made on our nations.
It was something that was kind of cool to see the communities and the areas kind of rise up in patriotism and really join together to combat something negative.
I remember when I was a kid, it really didn't, when I first heard about it, it really didn't affect me too much. I felt kind of like distant from it. It didn't really feel real to me because I was watching on TV. And the images seemed like it was like some kind of like show or something. But as I got older, I realized the significance of September 11th, and how many people responded with courage and boldness to help other people.
Especially with the new laws, with the Patriot Act, and such a sweeping legislation that really tightened the grip on the country. I think everybody was kind of wondering will it happen again? What's it gonna be? And
I think it was just kind of a wake-up call of, I guess at that age, like my ignorance to world events or international focuses. And I think for me it was mostly just a wake-up call that it's important to know what's going on in the world, and to be praying for others. And
since my family is so close to being near aviation and things like that, it's really had an effect on just like business. We have to do a whole bunch more regulations. When my dad and my brother go out flying, it's not as safe anymore. I guess there's just a feeling of not a secure environment.
Reflecting back on it, I just have a real appreciation for the brave men and women in uniform who sacrifice their lives for our freedoms, and just grateful for that.